Thank you for staying with us on the program. We appreciate it. So we want to quickly take a look at the issue that we must begin to discuss, which is the need to recover from the damage we're seeing occasioned by much of the drama associated with the SARS protest. Of course, as already noted, for the most part, the SARS protest was peaceful because the cause was determined and was made known to end police brutality and then bring reforms as quickly as possible to the policing system in this country. But then again, whatever happened afterwards is now history. But a part of that history that's very painful is the amount of destruction, the level of damage that we've come to find and we'll have to live with for a while, at least in this country. So we're looking at the need to recover and the enormity of work that must be done by way of achieving that recovery. I'm joined by two gentlemen on the program this morning. From my immediate left is Dr. Maxwell Osaige, is a public affairs commentator. It's always a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you, viewers.
And next to him is Felix Osareme, is a lecturer at the Department of History and International Studies, University of Benin. Welcome to the program as well.
Oh, yeah, good morning. Viewers at home, good morning.
I want to begin with you, Felix, the issue of the SARS protests. We're seeing governors now taking stock, counting costs to know exactly the amount of damage that's been done in their respective states. A lot of persons have talked about the sporadic nature of the destruction that we saw. Some persons are now even saying, is it possible there was a syndicate? How come you had something happen, for example, in Lagos, the next thing is Ogun? Of course, you can say Ogun is neighboring states. The next thing is you're seeing it happen somewhere in the south-south, and there's just a replication of the same kind of attack across the country. This is a new phase for Nigeria, isn't it?
No, it's not really a new phase for Nigeria. I think we should always make efforts to know our history very well. Let's go down memory lane a bit. In 1989, there was a nationwide protest, powered mostly by university undergraduates, against the government at the time, that of General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, and it was termed anti-SARS riots. And what was the foundation? It was that the government at the time told Nigerians to adopt austerity measures in a way to avoid taking World Bank facility that had conditionalities attached that were obviously going to be against the best expectations of the receiving public, which included downsizing the workforce, removal of subsidy, removal of privatizing certain public infrastructure. So the whole scenario was subjected to some form of town hall meeting all across the country. And Nigerians opted for implementation of conditionalities without taking the loan. Eventually, after opting for that alternative, or that point as proposed by the government, it was established later that the government still went ahead and took the loan and began to
all of those conditions attached
of the loan, which Nigerians have willfully made a sacrifice to avoid the burden. So there was outrage, powered mostly by university undergraduates and labor unions. It started just as this SARS movement started. There was mass appeal. There was public support.
That is the Babangida must go riot.
It started as anti-SARS, not Babangida must go.
Okay.
Initially, it was these policies should be reversed. First day, in fact, people celebrated the street, came out with placards, branches, and supported the students. Second day, it was hijacked. The elements of nefarious groups and gangs came into this protest. I will tell you what is very interesting. I was in that protest, so I was not told I was there. Mission Road, up to House of Assembly, hoodlums hijacked the protest, began to loot, burn, and destroy. The first day of the protest, the military was a bit receptive. Colonel Tudogbeya was governor then, and he even took letter that he would forward it to central administration. By the second day, when it turned to an orgy of violence and brigandage, the strong arm of the government came out. Then it was shoot aside, catch as many as you can catch. People started abandoning the cause. And we do know as at that time that universities in this country shut down for months. So this NSAS protest started with the same mass appeal. Nobody enjoys any form of intimidation or harassment. And that of SARS was a particular study in inhumanity, in inhumane treatment of human beings by elements of the state that were given a constitutional responsibility to protect and to serve. And as we remember, it was Special Anti-Robbery Squad. What we were seeing was not anti-robbery. It was Special Harassment Squad that it transformed itself into. And when you have a runaway unit in a state-sponsored institution that has the legitimate use of force on its side, and they will tell you openly to your face that I will kill you, nothing will happen. That this is, they will tell you that this is Nigeria, nothing will happen. And it was replicated over the years. From 2012, people have been complaining about this SARS matter. It has, in fact, by 2016, it was becoming a movement. By 2018, it has even reached some level of localization to the international level. People did not take it to be something. Of course, we used to say Nigerian youths are lazy youths, that they are social media warriors. So it was more like a shock to the government when what they thought could not happen happened. That for the first time there was this consciousness, national awareness. Let me not globalize it initially, because later it moved from the national level to the global platform by the means of social media outlets, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and others. But interestingly, nobody will deny the fact that Nigerian youths were not asked to do this. They knew it was what they had to do. Because we are all living witnesses. We have friends and relatives and associates who have been victims. And in such situation, you do not need to now tell people. Everybody knew. It was they were waiting for that spark, and the spark came on the 8th of October.
Let's talk about the destruction we have seen.
Yeah, I'm leading to that destruction
now.
So it was in the same mood of that public angst against the police that also fired the destruction. Frustration aggression theory will tell you once you are frustrated, you have to lash out. You reach out. See, some people can swallow pain and go into self-remorse and be intense and be weeping. Others will just wait for an outlet, and once the outlet is there, it will be let loose. What happened after the protest, which was the legitimate contestation of what was wrong, and interestingly, the protest was not designed to embarrass the government. It was designed to even help the government to reform the police. That is why it was not just end SARS, but reform the police.
Right.
So that was properly driven. Then the issue of hoodlums. Hoodlums are Nigerians that are, as we say, discriminated against. People that do not believe they have anything to live for. And a man who has nothing to live for becomes a threat to his own society. He does not see himself as a stakeholder anymore. He sees himself as a victim. He actually represents the victimized majority, silent majority. And like a beast let loose, they don't know anything that you say, restrain yourself, resign. All that is propelling them is that desire. It's hedonistic. I want to get this. So they believe that, oh, the state has cheated them so much, the rich has exploited them so much, the government has oppressed them so much, this is an opportunity to lash out. So anything that represents the public and even the private that is not secure, as far as they are concerned, it is now we against them. So the brigandage that followed the protest is a reflection of the deep-seated animosity of the majority of mostly young people who feel that they have been over the years exploited by the state system and the officials who ordinarily have a duty to plan and execute policies that would have moved them from one level to a better position.
Let me talk to Maxwell about the 5-point demands of the NSAS protesters. Some analysts are now saying that the protests got derailed when at the point where the federal government acknowledged and accepted to carry out reforms along the lines of those 5 points that they had demanded. it should have been a very brilliant point at which to put the protest to an end and then give government time to implement for short term, medium term, and long term. Do you share that thought?
Not really, not really. You know, there is this thing about our politicians. The only thing that they are interested in is just themselves and their family. And if you look at the protest, the 5-point demand, indeed, I didn't look at those demands as something tangible enough that government cannot implement within a specified period. But you know, there's this aspect in our national politics that I don't like, and I'm angry. I'm angry. Reason being that if somebody is telling you, can you reform the Nigeria police? Is that a big deal? Reform the Nigeria police. Is that a problem? Now you left these people on street asking for one thing first day, second day, third day, down to the 13th day. And you expect the normalcy to remain. Now, if you look at it critically, you agree with me that even when the protest was on, first, second, third, nothing like issue from the youth.
Peaceful.
But we saw when the politicians started instigating crisis, going after these protesters. Now, at that point in time, they were sending a signal to those at home. Maybe one way or the other, the hoodlums, sending message to them that, okay, these guys that are just protesting, they are weak. Maybe we need to come out in another form so that they will understand that, yes, we really have youth in this country. I think it was not just the 5-point demand, it is actually the attitude. The attitude to which government listen to their youth, individual, or the citizenry. So the issue here is that when a demand is made, I expect government to remove the political side of it. Can you look at the merit of that particular demand? How will it help you and I? How will it help Nigeria? So at that point in time, if they have listened to the youth on the first, second, third, fourth, fifth day, you agree with me that before the protest started, before they moved to the street, 2-3 days it was on social media. The thing began from social media. When the thing happened in Ughelli, that was the instigating factor. It was from Ughelli. Now the thing moved. It was weekend, to be specific. It was even weekend. Then it was on Saturday, a Sunday, that the IG now said, okay, no more SARS on social media. That was when various celebrities went online, started hearing their view towards the brutality of Nigeria police. Yes, indeed, SARS became like the starting point of the reform. But you and I know that Nigeria police, from beginning to the end, is totally corrupt. I say that without apology.
We've seen fine policemen who are doing the right thing on a daily basis. You may say they're in their minority, of course, but of course we've seen policemen who understand what the rules of engagement are, and that they follow those rules of engagement to the letters. So is it correct in that light to say the police is corrupt from top to bottom?
There is this, you know, in politics they say the minority have their say. The majority have their way. Now, if the majority is having their way, minority is having their say. Those minority is nothing. So as it stands in National Assembly, the PDP caucus, whatsoever they say, whether they cry nothing tomorrow, the APC, which is having the larger number, have the say in everything that they do. So if you have a proportion of 10 against 2, everybody is corrupt. Thank you.
Okay. We're still going to continue to have this conversation. At some point, we'll make effort to bring someone to speak on behalf of the police authorities. A couple of them, maybe because of the peculiarity of the circumstances we're dealing with, have not been disposed to coming to talk about these issues on our programs here on both television and, of course, on our radio. But in the days and weeks ahead, we hope that will happen, so the police position can also be officially stated on the program such as this one. Felix, there's the issue of, you know, the conversation, how that the conversation possibly changed how that there was a curve at that point where you had soldiers deployed or not deployed to the Lekki Toll Plaza, for example. That in itself is an element in the discussion. Were there soldiers deployed? Did we have a situation where soldiers were not deployed? Somebody was trying to maybe benefit off of feeds, cook up stories, and so on and so forth. We've seen back and forth, really, on that front. At a point, the Lagos State governor himself came out to say soldiers were deployed, even though at that time the army authorities had officially said soldiers were not deployed. But we know better now. Just yesterday, for example, it was already established that even the army had now said that soldiers were deployed on the invitation of the Lagos State government. So that already settles that. Are we saying if soldiers had not been deployed, the narrative would have been different?
Interestingly, the deployment of soldiers did not, it upped the game. It's a trajectory. If you throw any ball or any ballistic element, it will move at a point, there's momentum. At that point, you reach a peak, it will drop. Gravitational pull, unless there's continuous propulsion.
To push it up?
Yes, to keep pushing it up. That's why rockets take off into space, because they have that maximum acceleration. Now, in this same situation of this protest, you see, this protest was sustained peacefully for 12 days. And when it started from that, on the 8th, when they now said we are going all out, because from the 3rd, it was really, it was social media, by the weekend, then by 6th, 7th, it became public. People have already protested in Edo State here, where the deputy governor even addressed the young men. I saw the video. These are amateur videos. But the deputy governor said, okay, get some of your people, come and discuss. I will take up this matter with the commissioner of police, who will forward it to the authorities. You see, that's a straight line.
Right.
In Lagos, the same thing also happened. The protesters were very peaceful. After protesting, they will clean up. People were supporting. The policemen that were around, keeping the place calm, were being given water and refreshment by protesters. Now, curfew was announced to take effect from 4 p.m. Later, it was adjusted to 9 p.m. It was that point that the issue of the soldiers that came to Lekki Toll Plaza changed the narrative. Whether army say they deploy or not, did people see soldiers? Yes or no? Yes. Even if they are not real soldiers, because in Nigeria we have unknown soldiers. We have rogue elements. We even have soldiers that mount checkpoint and kidnap people, and later they will be told that they were not soldiers, but they wear military uniform, they carry military issue arms. This is Nigeria, where, as first said jokingly, police shall close by 6 o'clock for security reasons. I didn't say that. It is real. We should not always, everything is not academic. Everything is not political. Sometimes the real answers are the straightforward ones that every discerning human being will know. So the reasonable mass test is, what would an ordinary man do in this matter? Soldiers were there. Whether they were deployed officially or illegally, were there soldiers at Lekki Toll Plaza? Yes. The deniers are just political claims. Did they shoot? Yes. Gunshots rang out. I don't have a gun, but if I hear gunshot, I will know it's from a gun. I know the difference between gunshot and fireworks. And there is staccato in gunfire that you will also understand. So if even you were peaceful, when you hear gunshot, the first action is, the first reaction as a human being is safety. So people will move, and in a crowded place, somebody is bound to be trampled upon. Also, do not forget that it was getting late in the day. The floodlights have been turned off. Whether by direction or in preparation for the curfew, I don't know. But the lights were also turned off. You see, these are facts. They are not conjectures. I'm not saying it's what is in my head. It is what happened. We are still going through
the managers of that facility, the ones controlling the lights, even came out to say they did it in compliance with the directive regarding the curfew. Yes.
See, in history, because it is ex post facto rationalization, when things have happened, you now begin to put in place answers and attempts to fill the jigsaw pieces in the puzzle. In this reality, soldiers were there, and they fired, and people got injured. What I cannot establish, which we have not been able to prove, is the number of fatality. But we cannot deny. You see, put 500 persons in a room like this and just throw one firework. They scramble to go to the door. Somebody will get something. We are human. So it happened in Lekki. The question now is, it also shows how funny and dangerous our lives are in Nigeria of 2020, where whether soldiers were deployed or not, shots were fired, we don't know who. The Army High Command, first of all, will use the normal pattern of we did the same people. They have agreed now at the same people on invitation. So where lies the truth? Then this is the problem. The government always has integrity deficit because the government is not open. The government is not sincere in its presentations. That's why most people now fall back on social media, no longer on mainstream media. But before mainstream media will talk, they've been canalized. The opinions, they will have to be moderated. They will tell you, oh, we have principles, we have the social responsibility theory. I agree. But you can also remove the fact that people were doing live streaming as the incident was going on. We still had the people, the youths in protest, singing national anthem, waving flags, gunshots in the background. This is 2020. Before we begin to lie up and down as Nigerians want to know that politicians always lie. In fact, the only time politicians are telling the truth is when they say other politicians are lying, because we all know. So it is their stock in trade. And when they now do all their denial pattern and everything, elements of truth will always come out. No matter how you cover truth, it will express itself, because there are videos of people that were there. The persons are still being looked for now. We don't know whether they were actually, of course, you have to now say, I saw him by my side. They will now ask you, what's the evidence? When you get legalistic, you can begin to punch holes, but it doesn't change the fact that certain things happen there. And there are satellite photographs. We should begin to leave all this argument. You see, Nigerians, politicians in Nigeria sitting in terms of we own this town, we do whatever we like. That's not true. The world watches you. There are very sophisticated devices out there that would have seen what was going on down here. But for issues of national security, it may not be put in the public domain. Let us not begin to, you see, the army that is now changing the situation that they were invited, they know certain things now that certain persons have told them, if you like, be saying this and that, we have evidence. So these are the truths. And when they got there that day, their action that evening changed the whole program. In fact, on the 20th of October 2020, Nigerian flag, as some youths now painted it, the white part became red because people were singing national anthem and they were being shot at. Ordinarily, that is the height of massive humanity to man. In civil society, an unarmed person who cannot retaliate, at least you can actually stay scared. There are other measures you can use, limited force. The rules of engagement that the Nigerian army is now trying to talk about, that they follow the rules of engagement in civil matter. Do army have rules of engagement in civil matter? No. The army is to overrun, to maim, and to kill. That is their own. That's why they are used for external aggression and defense of territorial integrity. It is the duty of the police to go for internal security. But when the police fails and you bring in the army, please, with all sincerity, we don't expect them to be telling you, follow, no, do like this, like this. Most of the time, the own is the issue command, they expect to obey. It's command and control. And that is why when the thing became public, because as was happening, we were getting live videos, comments, and everything. You cannot say everybody was not photoshopping. Even if you agree, but things came out from that place. And why Lekki Toll Plaza? Because that's the only place it happened. There were other protest spots in Lagos, Alausa.
But that was the epicenter.
Yeah, that was the epicenter. And that place was even part of the best organized. They had DJs, they had people. I saw a lot of these things, even in mainstream media. Reports were going on. So it was not these are not conjectures. And when it now happened that the outbreak of official violence changed the narrative, of course, the hoodlums that were in the background before will now capitalize. That was when the GT Bank Plaza at that Admiralty Way business began to get touched. Arson now became right from that evening, even when there was curfew in place.
In Lagos State, sure.
Now, if you follow the rule of the primary responsibility of government is security of lives and property, did government secure lives and property at that point? No, the government failed again. So it's not even the youth. It is the government that should be questioning its own inadequacies. And in questioning its own inadequacies, the government should now have a frame of reference to move ahead to say, we failed in this regard. You see, admittance of failure is not a crime. It is only in Nigeria that people in public space never admit that they failed. They grandstand. In fact, they rather than accept, they justify their failures. And this is why this matter became an orgy of violence subsequently, because from that 28th to 22nd in Lagos, it was a free-for-all.
I want us to talk about the impact of this on the police in particular. In Lagos, for example, we are seeing reports now that no less than 25 police stations were touched. Yeah.
Yes.
We have a police system in this country that has been challenged for decades. This further weakens our policing system in Nigeria, doesn't it?
Thank you. I think there are fundamental issues we have to look at first. If you are killing something that is already dead before, do you call that killing?
Well, we can't say the police were already dead in this country because we see police.
I have reasons for that.
The police has been challenged enormously, no doubt about that. But the police has
it's just that. Let's be sincere. It's just that the budget for security is not something you send to public domain. Now, somebody asked me a question. He said, when the lawyer, when the medical practitioners are challenged, they make their views through protests, etc., or want to strike and everything. When the lecturers are challenged, they make their voice heard through
industrial
different
action.
means. Now, when the police are challenged, they should go for protest. And I said, no, security matters. It's not something you say they will go for protest. But there are ways to which those things are supposed to be handled.
In an ideal situation.
In an ideal situation. But we have a system where those that are saddled with the responsibility to make the voices of these police officers. Now, I keep asking one question without an answer till tomorrow. Now, a politician is right there. He or she will sit for 3 days in the week, and you are paying him ₦1 million, of which somebody that is meant to focus on crime on a daily basis, where you will see somebody, he can shoot you, he can kill you, and you expect that person to be paid 50, 100,000 naira. Where are we in this country? Issue of security, you saw what happened. No, before you came to work during that issue, it was a big problem. No businesses opened. So that's to explain to you that without security, call it economy blueprint, call it visions, etc., etc., they are all what? Useless. You will not achieve them. Now we see a daylight robbery. Now when you call police, he will tell you we don't even have a base. Now it's far more than that. It's far more than that. So the end product of it is this. I think the reform is painful anyway. It's painful because those that we were agitating for, those that the youth were crying for, that we need a better restructuring to make them live well. Now, it will be a good thing that you are driving on the road, police does not ask you 5 naira. No, police ask you, Oga, waiting there for me. Because it became an institutional thing that when you see police on the road, you must drop. When they come to your house, you must drop. If you go to their police station, you must drop. When they come to your house, you must drop. So it was becoming a norm, and we were becoming used to it, though in the other way form. So, however, having said all that, I want to digress a bit. Now, the issue of sending soldiers to Lekki or not sending soldiers to Lekki, I don't think that's the issue. Now, soldiers could be in front of this ITV. If you don't shoot, would there be any issue? Now, you didn't hear of the soldiers when they were there, as at when they've not shot at the protesters. It was when the protesters, when the shot happened, that we became clear that, oh, soldiers were there. At the beginning, we had no idea that we had soldiers in Lekki. Now, the point is, it was an orchestrated plan. The government cannot shift this blame. All this blame game, federal government, state government, and everything. It was an orchestrated plan. Does curfew require that you off light?
Maybe there were peculiarities in Lagos State at that time. I mean, circumstantial issues.
Peculiarity that when you not declare a curfew, you said, okay, no street light should work again. That when you not declare a curfew, you said, okay, fine, the camera should be turned off. When you declare a curfew, you said, okay, everybody. So it does not make sense. Now, there are ways you engage people, positively or negatively. But the end product of it is this. The result at the end of the day is what matters. I think this is where the government failed. Now, on the issue of policing, the police should understand that we are fighting for them. That they should know that their well-being is what we are fighting for. And I believe categorically that if a policeman is paid, the least policeman is paid 250,000 naira, he or she will not ask you for 100 naira. Though we understood that corruption is a way of life for us in Africa. Because it's only in Africa I see that you have enough and you are still asking for more. No, I'm not interested in you asking for more. But the bottom line we should be interested on is this. If the government is actually eating and they are doing what you ask them to do, will you be bothered, Mr. Oye?
They are not a fast, they are eating, of course. Everybody
yes, but if they are actually working, they are doing what you ask them to do, and they are eating some part, you and I will not be bothered. No, but the system we have for crying out loud, youth came out to protest just for police reform, not light, for 60 years, sir. Not light, not on construction of road. Tell me one tangible thing in this country that you say is working 80%. Why am I even using the word 80%? 60%.
I think there are a few more issues we want to look at. I can see that Maxwell is super fired up for this the discussion. But just to let you know that we understand the executive, as the president has told Nigerians, has sent a proposal to the Salary and Wages Commission to possibly look at the upward review of not just the police, but other security agencies as well, by way of changing the narrative for the better. We'll start taking calls in a few minutes, so you can lend your voice to this conversation. But please, and please again, you have to stay with the issue. We don't want you to use this as a medium to sling mud and call names or call people out on the program. The issue we're looking at is how do we recover from the damage, which is very huge, by the way, on account of these SARS protests. That is the point we're looking at this morning. It's not to call names and insult people. Please, let's stay with the issues and behave as the Nigerians that we are. I mean, own the project, not to insult people and institutions. We just thought we should make that known. Felix, I want to talk to you about the panels of inquiry that have been set up across this country, at least for the most part, Lagos being one of them. Edo State has also done the same. Some persons are saying it's just wishy-washy, say flash in the pan. It's going to go the same way as other initiatives, similar initiatives we have seen in the past in this country. But Nigerians are not going to bed just yet, are they?
No. I will use 2 points to clarify the situation. Earlier, I mentioned that in history, there's something we call post facto rationalization. When something has happened, you begin to explain it using the peculiarities around the situation. You know, so government will always come out and say, as expected, they will set up panels of inquiry that will now sit down and look at what happened. You see, whenever something happens, in a normal situation, you must know why and what happens, including the how. How did these things happen? Why did it happen? What actually happened? Where and when? Those are the terms of reference. Then you now proceed to how do we forestall such the negative part from reoccurring. Then the positive part is to move ahead to say, from this we have learned this, we must do this to prevent a reoccurrence if there are negatives. Now, this also takes me to the second thing I said I want to quickly point out. My union, trade union, ASU, we have a penchant, and this is very interesting. ASU will not identify a problem and walk away. ASU will identify a problem and advocate a proper solution to that problem. So it is not, therefore, a problem that exists in isolation. It's a problem that has been identified. Proposals, workable solutions have now been provided, which will now lead to the third point, implementation, which is no longer subject to ASU as a union that has proposed. This is exactly where we are again now. Things have happened. The violence and the vandalization and the brigandage across the country, it's touching. In an economy that is already not doing very well, Nigeria was just coming out from recession. We have not even left recession. We are still in it. COVID came in from early this year, from March. The economy experienced another downturn. Partial shutdowns, total shutdown in certain parts of the country. We have not even recovered from that. Then this season of anomie is on the country. So the level of destruction, sincerely, is historic because Nigeria has had series of national challenges, not to this level. And now this one is particularly interesting because we have very bad economic situation also on us. Nigeria has been declared as the poverty capital of the world since 2018, and it is even getting more severe. So we are now going to ask ourselves this question: with all this destruction and the rest, what's the way forward? The first thing we expect government to always do is to set up panel, which they have already done. As I said, when you know a problem, you already have an idea of that problem. It reduces the difficulty of addressing it. The SARS protest did not happen as an accident.
Right.
There were proposals, the 5 proposals that were forwarded to government. Those proposals, government can start working from there. While they are looking at other issues, there were proposals: reform the police, disband this unit, put this in place, put salary review. Like my co-discussant said yes now, you don't need to go to outer space and come back. This is not rocket science. This is factual. Executive orders can come in. You see, when it comes to appropriating values in terms of remuneration and other entitlements to political officers, it is done instantly in this country. As if you just switch on like to come on. But when it comes to doing what is good for the entirety of the society, you begin to hear stories. Nigerian politicians will now say, well, you know, they will now start hawking at then you begin to see obfuscation, force looking for a way to stymie the progress of the country. We don't need to go far. You see, this is a wake-up call for the country itself, for the leadership of this country, to ask itself, what have they missed over time? What can be done now to take back the society, to reaffirm the social contract that exists between the government and those that they govern? Because power resides in the people. It is the people that elect those who lead them.
Right.
In democracy, and we are in democratic government. At least last time I remember, we are still in democracy. Even though we have malformations of our own, it cannot change the fact that there's a government and there is a society that is to be governed. And when there is crisis, government must rise up to the occasion, and the government cannot do it alone. In this wise, civil society organizations are there, organized trade unions are there, the civil service itself is there, the public, religious groups, communal groups, everybody should sit down and begin to question. The issue of the comfort report is also there. Yes, we've looked at that. That one is even already in the background. But this one that is before us now, how do we move forward? Businesses have been destroyed. Businesses that took decades. Foreign direct investment has dropped. Now, the element of foreign inflow coming in is presently very, very uncertain, because no good investor will go and put his fund in an environment that is not secure. And insecurity over the years that has been the bane of this country has now reached a national crescendo, where it is not, this is not militant in the Niger Delta, this is not militia in the northwest, this is not Boko Haram in the northeast. This has now become an orgy of violence at a national level. So we must ask ourselves and sit down and say, how do we reconstruct? Reformation, reconstruction, transformation, they are not threats to a sitting government. It is the government that does not understand the challenge before it. The government should even use it as an opportunity to embrace the public and say, we have this challenge. Please bring in your support. What can be done together? Let us begin to build integrity. Let us begin to build consensus. Politicians should not take this as another opportunity to begin to tongue-lash people, to cast aspersion on the public. Nothing was done that was not done properly, apart from the hijack of the protest by
I want to take a few calls quickly now. We're back to my panelists in the studio. Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Yes, please, your name and your location quickly.
Okay, my name is Eddie. I'm calling from Yekoba Housing.
It's a pleasure. Go ahead.
Please, I would like to speak what everybody here. I want to speak broken English, please.
Okay.
Okay. Brother, you see these SARS protests of the team. Now our people, our so-called Yahoo boys, now they start up. You understand what they are talk to?
Why you talk like that?
Huh?
Why you talk like that?
Okay. When they start the protest, they were saying SARS. You know, they don't mention any of that basic things where busy with the news for Nigeria. So now along the line, other people, I call it add all those things we're busy with the needs for Nigeria. No lights, no this, no good road, no education and the rest. You understand? Not be say they like one join police, say police they they always they attract them. You understand? But they started this protest. And any protest for Nigeria, I would say like 95% of protests where anybody don't do for Nigeria is political. You know, people know they always they come out willingly say they want to go protest. You understand what you talk. So as they start that protest, celebrities come join them because they benefit from them, you know. People come they join, they add other things where busy they pay them for mind. Along the line, they don't feel control, you know, hoodlums. They allow hoodlums to take over. Now everybody is suffering it. You understand what I'm saying? So we as the Nigerians, when we know they do things because of our own selfish interest, when we want protest or we want to do anything, when we let them come out from our mind. All the protests that they do for Nigeria, where I don't watch for news, see for social media, you know, 90-something% is political. We know they always they come out because of say the thing they read, they pay us for mind. You see all those guys now, when they pay them for mind, now they just sit on because police was always oppressing them. So now the people, when people call the joy after maybe some days, that they come up with no good road, no lights, no this, no that. You understand?
Make we address the first issue when you raise. According to you, now Yahoo Boys now starts the protest, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
You see, even in that case, the Yahoo Boys not say end Nigeria police. They say end SARS. In any case, if you see somebody when carry phone, he carry spiky hair, or when would they call dada or dread, you get the way you go to approach him as a policeman. If you need to arrest him, you get the way you still approach him. But we don't see, I don't see, for example, where policemen bring POS terminals, small POS machine come out from inside their motor, and even private vehicle. It is that they collect money from the boy. So let's even assume, for example, say that boy na Yahoo boy. Is it proper to do that kind of thing, for instance?
Yes, it did very bad. We all know, say it did very bad. You understand? Everybody knows, say what the police they do. Not only Yahoo boys police they harass anybody.
Okay.
You understand? So that they harass everybody, not be only them. Neither they harass. So what make me call? Now just if anybody want protest for anything, maybe they come out with, you know, waiting they really bother people, not because of say I don't just know where I want to put it.
My brother, you do. I think your point is very clear. I've heard people talk about that. Really, they say it was these internet fraudsters, the popularly known Yahoo boys, who started all of these protests. But again, we've talked about rules of engagement on this program just a while ago. Even when, for example, you suspect reasonably or sufficiently that somebody is into internet fraud, aren't there better ways, based on the set down rules, to approach such issues towards investigation and prosecution and so on? Instead, what we have seen for the most part are situations where you forcefully collect the person's phone, collect their laptop. Sometimes you drive them to unknown locations. Sometimes you drive them to mechanic workshops, to garages. You drive them to uncompleted buildings, abandoned projects, for instance. You beat cash out of them, and then it became a culture at a point. So even if it were Yahoo boys who started it, we saw people, well-intended people, who also came to join the protest to say, beyond ending SARS, going forward, let's reform the entire police architecture. So we thought we should make that clear so that we understand the breadth and the length of the conversation. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Yes,
Hello,
welcome to the
morning.
program. Yes, your name and your location quickly.
Yeah, I'm calling from Benin.
Okay.
Estable Road. Hello?
Go ahead, we're listening to you, we're hearing you.
Okay. So I just want to contribute to the topic, it's the end-start issue. So I want to let the government know that the issue has already happened. And what I expect from the government, one, is that a panel which they have already set up. And two, they should try as much as possible to attend to the demand of the people, so that this issue will not occur again. So that is, they should try and attend to it. It shouldn't just be like one of those bills that they will just throw aside because the things have already calmed down. They should try and attend to each and every one of them so that the things will not come back again. And two, those people that they are charging to court, not that I'm not supporting the looting, but I will want the government to see in any way they can temper justice with mercy and allow them to go, and just to make sure that the thing doesn't happen again.
Well,
because an hungry man is an angry man, so they should just try and temper justice with mercy.
Okay, I wish we had a device to check their hunger level. I think events have overtaken that possibility already as it stands right now. They are already in the eye of the law. There's nothing much I'm sure anyone can do. Of course, you are saying there should be clemency on the part of government, even though you do not support or endorse the idea of looting. Maswa, back to you before we take a few more calls and wrap up the show this morning. The protest, some people say, may have ended.
Has it ended?
Well, some persons say may have ended.
Okay, may.
Yes, but it doesn't mean the issues have been resolved. What are the implications of that?
Yeah, thank you. I want to believe the protest is still on, because if you look at US yesterday, though there is a bit calmness on the part of Nigeria youth, maybe they are trying to re-strategize or whatever.
That's in the United States?
No, in here.
Okay, in Nigeria. Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
But in the United States, as at yesterday, over 4 states, if I'm not wrong, we saw Nigerians on the street still protesting, SARS movement, bad governance, etc., etc. Now the thing has left the local domain down to international scene. So it's not something we can just sweep under the carpet and allow it to just die a natural death. For the very first time, just like what I think the second caller said, at the first caller where he said, you know, it's political, protest is political. See, the right to assemble freely is guaranteed in section 3940 of Nigeria 1999 Constitution. The same way Article 11 of Africa Charter on Humans and People's Rights state that people can assemble freely. Let's remove the political side of it. I think this is where the government are getting it wrong. Now, can we look at the issues being raised by these people? Are they legitimate issues outside the politics? Now, if they are legitimate issues, how do we solve it? Now, it will interest you to know, also to digress a little, that according to the statistic released in 2019 October, by tracking team of civil society on budgeting matter, says that only 4 states are viable in this country. And those 4 states are Lagos, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, and Kano. Just 4 states. Now, if you look at the statistics given by these people in terms of viability, which means is on their IGR, how they can sustain themselves without federal government intervention. Now, I try to look at the budget of these people of 2020 budget, and the Lagos State, you just heard when they said $1 trillion is required to rebuild whatsoever may have been destroyed. However, whether the money was raised beyond reasonable doubt or that is not the issue right now. The issue is this, because if you actually look at Ojodu aspect of it, the BTRO, the bus, BROT.
Ojoju Oyingbo.
Oyingbo. Now, I think it was 23 that was burnt in Ojodu, 57 in Oyingbo. Now, when you look at the price for each bus, I think they said 23 of those buses cost nothing less than $200,000. While the remaining 56 cost nothing less than $100,000. And when you aggregate them together, is a bit above, a bit less than 4 billion naira.
About 3.9.
3.929 billion naira was destroyed just for bus alone. Now you are not looking at the Orile police station, etc., that we are born down.
The courts,
that is just
private businesses.
Yes, we knew this because the Commissioner of Information, Benga Motosho, made us to understand. Every other state has not been able to release the statistic of the ravaging effect of these laws. Now, the issue is not the protest. The issue is that if they have met with the demand, or if they have listened to the youth within 4, 2, 3, etc. days, we would have seen what we saw.
So you're saying government moved too late?
Yeah, just too late. Now the protests, that the demands they were asking for the first day, second day that you didn't want to listen, you didn't want to honor them. It's the same demand you want to do now. You have succeeded in listening to them, and you said you have accepted their 5x5 demands. But if you have told them on the first, second, third day that you have listened to their demands and their demands are cogent enough, a reform has to be made. Will you see the ravaging effect of this economic backdrop that we've seen right now? Now, if the managing director of the BTR robots have said within 6 days they lost over 100 million naira, that's just on the operational approach of it. Now,
ticketing.
Ticketing. Now, if you look into other areas, Nigeria is not where we have only BTR. BTR is everywhere. It's everywhere in the world and everything. So, but the point is this. I was also looking at the TVC station that was born. And I was asking myself, what will it take to build a full TV station? The amount is alarming. So that's another cost entirely. Now, if you have to start going into the private perspective and everything, I think we are in for a big problem. Now, if you calculate the budget of like Edo, Delta, Bayelsa, about 10 states, if you look at their budget, it's not up to 1 trillion.
No, I think it should be more.
So
than, unless, of course, you're talking about $1 trillion.
No, let me break it down for you. Rivers in 2020 had $500 and something billion and they reviewed it. They brought it down after COVID-19.
So a little bit below 500.
Yes. So in Kano had 200 and something, and they reviewed it with 38.8%. Now Akwa Ibom, the same thing, brought their own back to 100 and something. Now, if we look at about 10 states, less than 6 years. If we look at 10 states, we are saying 10 states, okay, 120 billion. I want to believe after review, we have many states who falls within 100 something billion, 100 something billion, 100 something billion on their budget. Now, if you sum like 8 states together, which is approximately, you have 1 trillion. So you are telling me already, only Lagos State require like 8 state budgets or 7 or 5 state budget to repair the damaging effect of what has been caused. Now, that should be the responsibility of federal government. Because the protest was not just all about the state government. The protest was just for the federal government to listen. Now, when you fail to do the right thing at the beginning, what you see is what has happened. So I think we should look at it from this angle. Outside the statistics, which is to aid us to take decisions and everything, the end product of it is this. How do we get out of this mess? How do we ensure that there is no future reoccurrence? Now, is my prayer that every responsible politician who are in the position to lead others, that the position you are in, listen to me, is not a profession, rather a service. So if we are looking at it from a service, we will heal many wounds that we currently see in the society today.
I want us to take a few more calls at this point before I come back to Felix. Hello, good morning. Welcome to TMI.
Good morning, Mr. Uyi and the various speakers in the studios. I want to contribute my own to this very topic.
You've not told us your name and where you're calling from.
Okay, my name is Mr. Amayo.
Okay.
I'm calling from Igbai.
All right, go ahead.
Well, first and foremost, I want the government to understand that Nigerians can no longer be fooled. And it's only somebody who does not want a change that will totally kick against the protest that just took place. And to me,
please turn down the audio on your television. There's a blowback already. Turn down the audio on your television.
Okay. I'm going to do that. So, like I was saying, it is an eye-opener. And my take on this matter is this. Every youth should not begin to look inwards, put everything that they are supposed to do together so that we don't have a rowdy situation like what played out and what was hijacked by hoodlums. And in addition to that, I also feel that the government, in its own part, should be sincere enough rather than shifting blames. I think a positive government and a government that is transparent will want to tell its people that, oh, this thing that happened, we are really, really sorry. Let's come to the table. Let's have a round table talk so that we find a possible solution. You understand? I know that someday we are going to have a better Nigeria. And it's not just local, and this thing is globally. Just like what happened in Lekki. If not because of this social media that we now have, I think the government of the day is going to cover a whole lot of things. But thank God for the internet. Even to the point that the security cameras were switched off and the light went out. But then, because of the sophisticated phones that the protesters had, they could get a very correct images of those things that happened there. And this time around, they could not now cover it up. And that was what made them to now say, okay, since it is like this, I will shift the blame to the government, to the state government, then the state government is shifting it to the federal government, then all that should stop. Now that we now know, we now say, okay, this is what the youth wants. Let's now begin to incorporate the youth into the system. Let's find a way so that the Nigeria we are dreaming of someday will have it. Because when you have people that have positive thinking, the right mind in the government, and not putting those our old daddies. Because I have a father, I don't want to use any language that will not be nice, because this is ITV television. So we should have the young people in the state, young people, youth, that can really, really help us. I know when the former president of the United States, Barack Obama, came into and became the president, then I think it was 44 years old. You understand? Whether plus or minus, even as we speak, the man is still very much, vibrant and healthy, healthy. So that's the kind of president governors we want to have. So that in the end, then we'll be able to have that which we are dreaming. If you want to talk about change, change begins with you as an individual before you start thinking of changing.
All right, Amayo, thank you so much for your contribution.
So that's my take on this.
We appreciate your take so very much. Let me return to Felix again now as we begin to wind down on this very important discussion. We've seen international figures. We've seen governments even across, beyond Africa, lend their voices to these SARS protests. Do you think all of this put together, where you have people like Beyonce, for example, you have people like Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, just to mention a few, lending their voices to these protests in Nigeria and talking to government directly. When we aggregate all of this, does it put enough pressure on government to act on recovery?
Ordinarily, it did, and factually, it should. Okay. After all, can you mention Lewis Hamilton, the Formula One driver?
Champion.
He even wore the face mask, SARS. We talk of Igalo, Nigerian international footballer who scored his first goal, and he still supported the movement. You see, Nigerian government is an anachronism. We should begin to state certain things. Nigerian government still begins to think that they can do whatever they like. You do not do that in 2020. Not even before 1999 when we came into this democratic system. We don't determine the space. We respond to the dictates. The International Committee, Joe Biden is a sitting presidential candidate in the United States election. And he tweeted openly that the Nigerian government should use limited restraints, that people have the right to protest. Beyonce is an international figure. Rihanna. I'm talking of Lewis Hamilton. Right. Talking of Nigerian international football stars. We're talking of Nigerians all over the world, because Nigerians are everywhere. Nigerians in different countries outside here began to agitate too in support of the same movement. In all, before the call lines opened just now, I did say something that I want to rehash here. That Nigerian government should not see this as an attempt to upstage its position. That is not the intention of the civil society. The civil public here has, over the years, complained about deficiencies in governance. The particular one that now lit up the fire today is the SARS protest. There are other issues. After, even while SARS was trending, some protesters pointed that power holding company and told them, after SARS, we are coming for you. So we know a lot of things that are wrong in our society. So we cannot continue to repress people. You cannot continue to suppress them. Even if you do successfully for a long while, you also hold yourself down. If you are holding someone down, you are holding yourself down. So it will not continue. It is better, as I said just now, that government should take this as an opportunity to build consensus. Government is very, very deficit in Nigeria in terms of integrity. The caller just made the same thing. Government should begin to engage. Open the space for discussion. Don't always have this mentality that we know it all. You don't. And in any case, government is about service. In Nigeria, government officials and those in power see themselves as rulers. They don't see themselves as leaders who have to discuss, who have to engage, who have to listen and act. That is why it took so long for the government to make pronouncement. Even when the president gave his speech was almost like a slight on the international community that people, the Minister of Information was saying that people should mind what they say about this country. Our neighbors and our friends should find the facts very well. They didn't cook these facts. They didn't throw the ball at us. We were the one that kicked the ball up in the air, and people saw it. So we should not begin to grandstand. This is a problem. This is painful. This is traumatizing. How do you heal? You call people together. If it's a family matter and people fought in a family, is it by saying, okay, we'll continue this fight? Is that the solution to the problem? No, you say, okay, we have had our differences. Let us sit down. Let us reason together. I always teach people when I'm discussing my conflict class that at the end of it all, words rule men. After all engagements in the battlefield, you go back to the negotiating table. You sit down. This is negotiation between the government and the governed. And the governed, they hold most of the cards. They're the ones that are present. And the government should be quick to act. It is not always, some people say everything is politics. Yes, we know politics. Politics is about the administration of people, management of resources. That is true. But that is not paying lip service to public interest. The public that you are serving, they are giving you the agenda now. Respond. After all, at the end of the day, it is to your own glory and benefit. It will be said that, oh, in your own time, when this happened, this was what you did right. Yeah. So the agenda has been set. If the government didn't act well, it didn't respond on time, you don't need to even go and burn down TV stations and everything for the government of the day to know that there is crisis in the country. As soon as something starts, make a statement. That's why you have SA, SSA, different platforms, different officials.
I want to give Maxwell a minute just to cap it all off now. How do we monitor progress from this point on? The government has said we have accepted your 5-point demands. And then, of course, we now appreciate as a people and as a government across board to say there's need to rebuild and recover. So how do we monitor progress? What should be the key performance indicators?
Yeah, it's visible to the blind and
to the deaf.
It's very simple. In the next few days or next few weeks, when we start seeing a responsible police officer, but it's just that the level of implementation by government is actually not the discussion, or just like my discussant said, no, government should open room for discussion, etc., and engagement, rule of engagement. There's one big problem. They've been engaging us for how many months now? Do you see implementation? So the issue is not just engagement, it's we seeing the implementation of the engagement. So they shouldn't politicize it. Certainly, we have civil society groups that are following every bit of what is being done. And we, the academics, in the academics, we are also following the trend, looking at how these things will be resolved fully, and it's for the betterment of everyone. It's for the good of everyone. It's for the progress of everyone. So I expect the government to be sincere with themselves, pump money into security, and every other thing will move on. So he just said something about we don't have external investors. How will they invest when they know quite all right that with one riot, you will destroy my property. So I will take my money to my country and create a better platform for it. So the end product is that we will see the tangible improvement if government responds.
As you said, it's visible to the blind and audible to the deaf. I want to thank these two gentlemen especially for coming to spend a part of their morning with us on the program here. Felix Osaribe and Max Olosage, thank you so much for coming. Okay, that's what we're leaving the discussion this morning. We're back shortly to wrap it up. Stay with me.